John here from thenailschool.co.uk. I get asked all the time, what's the best way to practice? I can't afford those expensive hands, but I haven't got enough people to practice on. Well, it is quite simple to do with some really simple, cheap objects. So let's just have a look at that. All you need really, basically, is just one of these little stands, which are about 99p or something like that. A little ball of blue tack. I like to use white tack because you can't see it through the actual tip. Place that onto there. Make sure it's well stuck. And then it's standing quite proud, as you can see. And then just get your tip, draw on a cuticle line with a Sharpie pen, and then stick that over the top of that so that it's definitely not going to fall off. Make sure it's secure, and then from there onwards you can do whatever you're going to do. You can work with acrylic, or you could work with gel, putting it into the lamp, gel polish, whatever. And you can also try your little designs out on there, and then you've always got that tip as a sample to show customers. But you probably file it up first, make sure it's nice, smooth, put a top coat on it, and then you can keep that to show your customers. So if I'm practicing, say, an ombre, I've got my brush here, which is a CJP Big Boy. Very nice brush to use. It does tend to do a lot of the work for you. And I've got Glam and Glitz, and this is Talea, which is just like a pink colour. And I've got Glam and Glitz Frost, this one's called. So it's a white with a bit of a glitter finish in it. So I'm going to put my white on first. So basically I'm going to wet my brush and then just take off some of that liquid, go into my pot here, pick up my white, place it onto the surface, front edge there, pat that out with the tip of the brush, and then just brush that backwards into the nail like this. Now obviously you need to make sure that it's you keep your brush quite flat when you're brushing out. And you usually go about 3/4 of the way up. So now I need to leave that now just to dry off. Obviously when you're doing a full set of nails, you know, you won't have this situation. Once the gloss has gone off the actual acrylic, I can then just start looking at my pinks. So I just want to go, take some off, go into my pink, place it on the back here, just leave about a 1mm gap there, and then just brush that down the nail. And I want to make sure that I actually fade that in down at the bottom here. So now I'm just going to get a bit more, and I'm just going to just strengthen that colour up at the back there. Just take that moisture out of my brush, pat down at the back here, and then just drag that down the nail. I'm not going all the way down because I want a fade on the nail. Now I can put little bits on there and then just drag down to make sure, just keep that front part clean, and then just drag down to get your fade. Now if you do accidentally go too far down, you can put some more white onto the front and then just brush it back, and then maybe add a little bit more white over the top. I still feel it just needs a little bit more darkness of the colour at the back, so I'm just going to increase that there with a tiny bit and then just drag that down to give a real nice saturation of colour at the back. Now, if you file over this, you will file out your graduation, so you need to cap it in clear. And obviously when you put your clear on, you can actually build up your structure as well. So if I just put some into the centre here, just place it, release, and just leave it for a few seconds just to what we call polymerize, which means that it's starting to set now. And then I can just brush that out. Don't forget, you can roll your client's finger so you can see the sides. Now I need to just put some on the front. A little bit here, tip the finger up, place it there, dry your brush, pat, 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 and then just brush backwards into the nail. If you get any hanging over the edge, just scoop it off, the same at the front here. Once you've done some backward ones, you can do some forward ones. Now with a brush like this, it does do the work for you, because it's quite a big brush, as you can see. Now what I'm going to do now is just put a little bit at the back, like this, place it here, 1 millimeter gap, take that excess moisture out your brush, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 in the gap, and then just brush out, wiping every time I come off. Then you should end up with a really nice ombre colour, which you can then file over and perfect even further. Right, I've got Glam and Glitz here, Bright Lights, which is a really lovely summer colour, and I want to put this onto this nail instead of using gel polish. Now obviously it's going to be a lot stronger and it's going to last longer because it's not a gel polish, right? So the first thing I've got to do is cap this nail in clear acrylic. So I'm going to get my brush, and I'm going to pick up out of my pot here, and then I'm just going to pop it at the back like I normally do. Tap my brush, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then brush out the acrylic. Now every time I brush, I'm wiping on the pad in front of me. I'm just going to put some on the front area now. Now obviously I'm not trying to build up any structure here. All I'm just doing is coating this nail with acrylic. Now I'm going to wait for that to dry. Now normally, obviously, if you're doing a full set, you'd get to this situation, you'd go to the next nail and so on, and then when you come back it would be dry. Right, so I've come back now and it is actually, the gloss has gone off it, so it's dry, and I've got that layer of acrylic over the extension and the natural nail. So now I'm just going to go into my colour powder, and I'm going to pick up here. Now it is very powdery, this colour, so just watch it doesn't drip everywhere. So now I'm just going to brush down the whole nail, just nice smooth brush strokes, wiping as I come off. I'm going to put the next layer on, somewhere around the centre, and then just brush down the colour. So as you can see, it's quite simple to do. I'm just going to get some on the end here so that we've got full colour saturation through the nail. So I've now coated the whole nail, but I just need to actually build up the saturation of the colour. So I'm just going to go back to the back again, make sure it's not heavy on the cuticle, then just come down the whole nail and just look for any areas that you might have missed or it hasn't picked up as well as you wanted to. There's a bit there, see, and I'm just going to go into that edge there. Now, working with this brush that I'm using, which is the CJP Big Boy, it really does give you a beautiful smooth finish when you're doing this kind of work. Obviously on the real hands you'd make sure that you weren't getting any onto the skin area, or get it off as soon as you can. Now I'm going to wait, I now have to wait for that to dry. So I'm just going to come back to that in a second. Obviously, again, when you're doing a full set, you wouldn't be hanging around for it to dry, would you? It would be, as you got back from the last nail, the first nail would be dry. There we go, that's better. Right now, so once that has dried, it's only a very thinnish layer on here. So I've got one layer of acrylic, thin layer of the colour, and the reason we put the thin layer of acrylic underneath first and thin layer of colour is that when we come to maybe do a colour change for the client, we can just use the electric file and just drill back all the colour until we get back to the acrylic underneath. So we're not going to do any damage to the nails, natural nails. So now I need to cap this with clear acrylic, and this is where we're going to build up our structure. So we're just going to now get some clear. I'm going to place that in the centre here, and I'm just going to press with just enough pressure so it kind of just sticks to the nail. Now I'm going to leave that now to what we call polymerize, and basically it goes into like a circle. If it starts hanging over the edge, you can just do this. Now I want it to start to set, so I've left it now a reasonable time for it to start to set. So now I'm going to brush from the back down the whole nail. Now because I waited for it to set slightly, it means that it's now going to leave the arch in the centre. Pick up again. This time I'm going to put some on the front here. Take that excess moisture out your brush and then just use tapping motions like this just to even that out, and then brush backwards into the nail. Keep your brush laid down flat. Now if it hangs over, just scoop it off the side like that. When you've done some backward ones, you can do some forward ones. You don't need to wipe your brush in between when you're doing this. Now I just need to go back to the back. So I'm going to place my bead at the back here, leaving a 1mm gap, dry my brush, pat down into this space, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then brush it out. Don't spend ages patting it down at the back, because then when you come to brush it out, it won't brush out. If you find you've left maybe a little bit of a dip somewhere, you can just pick up a bit more acrylic, put it wherever you need to, and then just brush it out smooth. And this big brush, it just does all the work for you. Now the idea is to get as smooth a finish as you can, so that basically there is no filing afterwards. well, very little filing, should we say. All you need to do is tidy up the edges, the end, and then as long as you're happy with it, you can more or less just block it over and then apply your top coat. So that's the CJP Big Boy brush. Right, this time I'm going to apply a glitter mix. Now again, I'm still going to put on my base of my nail and tip a coat of clear here. So I'm just going to brush that out so that I've got a nice coat of clear on the natural and nail and the tip. And again, that's just to help with removal. So just make sure that you cover all of the nail. And then we'll just let that dry. Now a glitter mix, here's one here that we've made up ourselves. So what you need to get is some glitter, obviously, and you want 1 part glitter to 3 parts clear powder, and then you just make up the amount that you require, give it a good shake, and it should be ready then to use. Now I highly recommend when you're using glitters is to get a separate dappen dish and put some acrylic liquid into that, so that you're not messing up your big pot of monomer that you use for doing your clear. So if I go into here now, pick up here, pop it onto the nail, and then just pat that down to the cuticle, and then just brush it out. And you can see again, I'm just wiping off any excess, so I'm not putting it back into the wrong place. Pick up, place it wherever you think you need it. It's quite easy to see where it needs to be. Just push it round and then just come down the nail like this. And of course you can use this method to do a kind of glitter ombre on top of a colour, where you just fade it up the nail. You can use it as on the tip, or you could do an all over colour like I have done here. And you just keep looking at the nail, thinking, where do I need it? And then just build it up to actually get your full colour saturation, and you haven't missed any parts of the nail. There you go. So what I will do now is to carry on with all my other nails, of course, and then eventually I'll come back and I'll apply my structure layer, making sure that my brush is free of glitter. Pick up my bead, place it near to the back, 1 millimeter gap, take that excess moisture out your brush, pat down in the back here, 1, 2, 3, 4, actually in the gap that you left. Brush that out. Now it does look like it's kind of dulled the acrylic down, the glitter down, but once you file over it, apply your top coat, that colour glitter will burst back to life. So I'm just doing my structure. I'm just going to place this in the centre. Sometimes I put it in the middle first, and sometimes I do the back first. It varies. Right, so I just want to let that settle out for a few seconds so that it starts to actually dry and set off. And then when I brush it out, after it's set off a little bit, it will leave it thicker in the centre or wherever I want to put my arch. And as usual, I'll do the front section now. Tip up, place it there, pat out with the tip of my brush, and then just brush backwards into the nail. If you get any hangover, just take it off. I just want to put one now over the whole lot, just to smooth out any problems. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, brush out. So there we have it finished. Now obviously, as you can see from this, it has sort of lost its glittery look. But I promise you that when you file over this to smooth it all out and then apply your top coat, it will burst back into the full glitter that you started with. So I've now filed it over and applied my top coat. As you can see, all the glittery sparkle has come back. At the end of your session, to maintain your brush, make sure that when you come back to it, it's not set solid. Just get some acetone, just clean your brush in the acetone. And then what I tend to do as well is I'll clean it off in some cleaner. Pull this into a nice shape that I want it to be next time, and then just store it away so that it's not bending up the bristles. Right, so I hope that little session of applying colour acrylics to nails was helpful. Obviously it is very basic, and from there onwards, you know, you can work onto some fantastic designs. We do run a course which it teaches you acrylic nail art. If you're interested in that, you know, just give us a call. So it's John signing off for now. See you soon. Bye bye.